Thanks for listening to the Media People Podcast, lively and insightful chats with the people who power the media industry. I'm your host, Victor Genova. For more episodes, you can go to mediapeople.ca or subscribe wherever you get podcasts. Views expressed by participants are personal. Sales and marketing, two departments that at any time could be working in harmony or at each other's throats. And today's guest, Jennifer DeFrenza, has had a seat at both tables. Jennifer is the VP of Marketing for Surex, a company offering insurance products for consumers and businesses. But before moving into marketing, she had a successful career as a media sales professional, working for companies such as Rogers Media, The Weather Network, and Expedia. Jennifer DeFrenza stops by to chat about growing up in Toronto, completing most of the 8th grade in Red Deer, Alberta, and going from chasing marketing dollars to controlling marketing budgets.
I pretty much run the branding side of Surex. So, I was employee number one for team marketing, which was really exciting. So they did a little bit before I started, but they were like, we need to do a little bit more and get our name out there. We obviously started in Alberta. That's where our head office is. So I started just over 4 years ago. And at that time, they were about to rebrand, new logo, new website. And I walked. So I've done a lot of things, wore a lot of different hats, obviously, as you do on a small team. We've grown quite a bit. So I kind of manage the side of the brand. So social reviews, the website, that sort of thing. And then my boss kind of handles more of the lead gen and the paid marketing and that sort of thing. I do help, of course, but I would say more of my stuff is on the branding side of Surex these days. So and Surex, I don't think I said, we are an online insurance brokerage, primarily selling home and auto insurance.
We should have totally attached some sort of like lead generation or affiliate marketing tag to this just to see what kind of traction we could have gotten from that. That would have been awesome. Jen, let's go back to the beginning. You're from suburban Toronto, Etobicoke, correct?
That is correct, yes.
So tell us what life was like growing up in Etobicoke, because, that's what I call home now, and I'm from Mississauga, so I'm just literally one town over.
Yeah. So obviously it's changed a lot since I lived there. Every so often I drive back or I go to see friends and I'm like, oh my God, there's another condo or there's this or that. But yeah, when I was there, it was, fairly young families. Went to school at Michael Power. I was, a little bit behind my brothers and sisters. There's 12 years between me and my next oldest brother. So they were all Power kids too. I actually went to the new campus at Renforth and Rathburn. So we were actually the first grade 9 class to start there. I'm not sure that's good for people who are trying to figure out how old I am, but that was me. So yeah, it was, pretty low key town. We, it hasn't changed a lot. The only thing that I would say changed a ton, Sherway was like our stomping ground. So we took the bus, we went down the West Mall, we went down to Sherway, and that was like the cool place to hang out. If the mall now was what it was then, it would not be. Like, it's super bougie now. It's so fancy. It wasn't that back in the day. We went there, went to the mall. Across the street was the movie theater. So that was our hangout spot for sure.
Okay, you mentioned hanging out at the mall. I did the same thing as well with Sherway, because I grew up in like the Dixie and Lakeshore area. So we take the Mississauga Transit bus over, and it was either Dixie Mall or Sherway. When you're watching Mean Girls with people, do you you know where I'm going with this? And they start going through the mall and you see, I guess you could say it's the older food court, not the original one. Do you end up like poking people and being like, that's my mall. We used to hang out there.
Wait a second.
You didn't know that?
What? That is brand new information.
Yeah, go back and watch Mean Girls, because
watching it this weekend.
Which was weird because it was like there were a lot of parts of that movie that kind of mirrored my high school experience, because we had some Mean Girls there, but it's so surreal because then all of a sudden you're just like, because you remember the old it's where Nordstrom is now, sort of, or like the Danish bakery or bakehouse or whatever it's called. You remember how they used to have the food court upstairs and they had like these big glass stairs? Yeah, that is clearly in the movie. Like, you can't miss it. Like, if you were a Sherway mall rat, you would pick that out immediately. And I'm always hitting people going, "That's my mall."
Oh my God, that's so funny. Because now that I'm like trying to visualize the movie in my head, I feel like they were in like the Body Shop or something in the movie, and it looks super familiar. Like, isn't that where she worked or something? Like, it looked like a familiar setting.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember what store it was exactly she worked at, but that was definitely
Or
in the
her
mall. But
friend worked there because she gave her the feet cream. Remember?
yes,
Okay, yeah.
that movie is a guilty pleasure and a half. I'd like to throw that out
Totally.
there.
Yeah, my girls aren't totally old enough to watch it yet, but I can't wait for them.
Yeah, that is. You're just like
Can't
here
wait
are my
for it.
teenage years right there.
There you
Play
go.
button, I'm gone.
Yeah, totally. That's so funny.
But even though you spent most of your childhood and your teenage years in Toronto or in Etobicoke, you spent 1 year in Red Deer, Alberta. So what took the family or
Oh
yourself
my
out there?
God. So grade 8, all my brothers and sisters were married, living, outside the home, obviously, and I was still at home, grade 8, and my dad's work transferred him to Red Deer to do a project. He was an engineer, and they were building a air separation plant in Fort McMurray, Alberta. So it was a big project, and they were like, you need to be out there for at least 12 months. So my mom was like, well, he can't go alone. I was like, okay, bye. You guys go. I'll be fine. And that was not an option at 13. So I moved there with my parents and started grade 8 there, which was so traumatic, like unreal. I was heartbroken. I was like, but we're graduating and my friends, and you know how it's your friends are your life at that age. So yeah, it was a big move. We didn't end up being there as long as a year, but I was there for the majority of grade 8. I did actually get to come back and graduate with my class, which was great. But yeah, I missed a lot. But at the same time, as a mature adult now, looking back, the experience was definitely, one you grow from. And I still keep in touch with a girl that I met there to this day. So she's got 3 kids. We've had kids at similar times. So yeah, it's kind of fun. We were pen pals for a long time before social media and stuff. We used to write letters back and forth every week. And I used to go to Sherway to that store. It was called like First Impression or Right Impressions or something. And then all the stationery. Like I wish this was still a store because I love paper products. But yeah, I used to go there and buy like fancy paper and write my letters to her. And it was like the big deal.
We should do a whole Sherway podcast. My throwdown would be Campus Crew.
Right?
Yeah,
Loved it.
see, there we go.
So one of the jobs, my dad got placed in Sarnia, and I was so excited because we could go across the border to Michigan, and wearing like basketball and bomber and football jackets was like a cool thing when I was young. And my like favorite team was Michigan, wearing the yellow and blue.
Going back to your, I guess, less than 1 year in Red Deer, Alberta, or sorry, Fort McMurray, I should say.
Well, no, we were in Red Deer.
You
He
were in Red
drove.
Deer. Oh,
Yeah.
he drove to Fort McMurray.
Yeah.
Did going to that, was that the first time you actually moved to a new school,
Yes,
like
it
completely
was.
cold?
Completely. I went to Nativity of Our Lord, which is still there in Etobicoke for my entire childhood, and then had to move to a brand new school all the way in Alberta for like, I guess I was there maybe 8 months, 9 months, something like that.
Were you already an outgoing individual back then, or did that force you to get out of your shell? No, seriously, like honestly, because you have to make friends. I mean, here,
Yeah.
just to use myself anecdotally, I went to the same elementary school throughout, like from JK right through to grade 8, and then I went to a high school that barely anyone from my elementary school
Oh,
attended. So I had to force myself to make friends. It's not like I had a
right.
group that carried on with me. So did you have that? I mean, you had that exact same experience as well.
I mean, I was kind of an awkward 13-year-old. And the other part that I think kind of killed me was, oh, there's Jen from big city Toronto here in Red Deer. Like she thinks she's so cool, which I didn't. I was just like, I don't know what to do. But I think I had that stigma when, you get the intro from the teacher. She's from Toronto. And like it was a big deal, I guess. Not a lot of people move from Toronto to Red Deer. But you found your groove and found your friends and you found your clique. And I would say I was not as outgoing as I am now. I definitely grew into that. But yeah, definitely a life lesson for sure.
When you came back, was it different with those friends, or did you just kind of like fall right back into place as if you
No,
were never
yeah.
gone?
Yeah, I fell right back in. It was like, thank God I'm here. I'm home. Yeah, totally. And then those friends, we all moved to the same high school. So we all went to Michael Power.
So everything reset itself.
Everything worked out, yes. But I feel like high school is a little bit of a reset anyway. Like even some close friends kind of fell in different cliques and stuff. And yeah, you meet new friends and stuff. But yeah, definitely my core girls, we stayed pretty close in high school. So
What were your hobbies or interests growing up?
like in high school?
Like at any point in growing up? We'll say your hobbies or interests before you turned 18.
I got asked this a few weeks ago for something else, and I'm like, it was really about like the social stuff. So when are we going to the mall? What are we wearing? Like it was it's so cliche, but it was a lot about like boys and dances. And I wouldn't say I was like in any really big clubs. Like I was on the school newspaper. My best friend and I, we wrote the horoscope for our high school newspaper, which was pretty much just pulled out of like Bop magazine.
I was just about to say, like, did you ever screw with some people? You'd be like, I don't like this person, and they're a Taurus, so it's just like I'm just going to write a
Yeah, and
painful
you'd
horoscope.
write something a little because I think it was anonymous who wrote them. Like obviously, her and I kind of knew that we wrote them, but I think in the paper it was like miscellaneous guidance, whatever. Like it didn't have our names attached to it. So if we knew that our best friend was this, we like, you're gonna meet your love interest this month and your lucky numbers. Like we'd kind of play with it a little. But yeah, that's really like I didn't really play sports that like we were great cheerleaders. Like we cheered on all our friends in sports. We had friends on the football team. Like Power was a big football school and hockey too. And coincidentally, those sports also had boys, so that really worked out for us. So
Okay.
yeah, no, we were pretty boy crazy back then. So
I ask all my guests who their influences were growing up, or if they had any, and everyone comes back with an influence. You are the first person to come back and say, "No, I really can't put my finger on anyone."
yeah, I don't, it's funny that you like obviously I think there's people now as an adult, you're like, oh wow, that person really impacted my life. Like whether it was a boss or someone you follow on social or but I think like back then you just like I obviously had good role models. I think that's a better term for me. Like, my brothers and sisters were a lot older and you kind of saw that they went to school and your parents and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't say like I was like, "Oh my god, I wanna be like J Lo when I grow up." Like, I wasn't I don't know, or I can't remember. Maybe my long-term memory has kinda killed it, but I don't remember, aspiring to be like someone famous or
Was there an actor or an actress though that kind of had you captivated during that time? Because I remember when I was a teenager, and not that he was like my favorite actor or anything, but like I would think I was in the 10th grade when Titanic came out. Or no,
Oh,
ninth grade it was Romeo and Juliet, 11th grade for Titanic.
yep.
And I think all throughout high school, every girl in the high school was obsessed with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like he was on
Yeah.
his photo was on all of the locker doors.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's someone I aspired to, but definitely a heartthrob or whatever. He was there. I was more of a Mark Wahlberg fan still to this day. My husband realizes it. It's fine. It's a thing. So Mark, if you're listening, like, if you want to grab coffee, just let me know. But yeah, he was definitely on my list of people that I watched and still to this day watch every Mark Wahlberg movie.
Did you find it weird though when all of a sudden he popped up in movies? Because he was like this one-hit wonder, like Marky Mark and the Funky
Yep.
Bunch. He had this one-hit wonder, and all of a sudden, I forget what movie he was in. It was a supporting.
Fear. Oh,
No, it was
uh,
this. It was like a cop movie, or it was like a supporting role. And I remember watching the
yep.
trailer, and I'm like, Mark Wahlberg. I'm like, that
Mark
Mark
Wahlberg.
Wahlberg. And then it was like a year later, there's another movie he's in, and then
Oh
the
yeah.
next year, two movies,
Yep.
and then just it kept going. Like, were you just kind of like, what? Like, did you
Yeah,
get?
I
Was it
didn't I
Mark
don't
Wahlberg, the actor, that you followed, or was it Marky Mark who caught your attention?
well, I think it kinda went from both. Like, it started with the Marky Mark, and then I was like, "Oh,
Feel
he
it,
does."
feel it.
Yeah, totally. No, you don't understand. So, probably, I don't know, COVID's ruined my timeline, but maybe, like, 8 years ago, New Kids on the Block came, and me and my girlfriend from high school, we like New Kids, it's fine, I admit it. We went to the concert, and halfway through the concert, they started on the piano with Good Vibrations, and I literally lost my shit because I thought Mark Wahlberg was gonna come on stage, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm not prepared for this mentally." He did not show up, thank God, because I may have had a heart attack, but yes, I might have been pregnant at the time, so maybe
Oh,
I was just
jeez.
like but yeah, it was like a moment for me. I was like, oh my god, he might come on stage." Anyway, I digress, but
Like many of my guests, your first part-time job ever was babysitting. However, I guess you
Oh,
could sort of
yeah.
say your first formal part-time job, I guess, where you got a T4 slip, or I guess a pay stub, was
Yes.
working at the Hot Oven Bakery in Cloverdale Mall.
Is it there anymore? I
I
don't
don't think
know.
it's there. Was it in
I
the
don't
food
think
court at the
so.
center, or was
No,
it
it
somewhere
was
else?
right, it was at the end of the mall. I'm
So
trying to think
where Target was, that there's nothing there
what
anymore because Target like came and went.
Came and went. Was Zellers there at one point? Was that where Zeller?
I
Or no,
think
that was
it
that
was
Honeydale Mall.
no, there was no, that was Walmart. Because
Mm.
I think Honeydale Mall, speaking of movies, I could have sworn the Honeydale Mall, which is like condemned now, was used for a
The
zombie.
condo.
No, I think it was used for, I don't think yet, but it was used for like a zombie movie. Like I remember that Honeydale Mall had Walmart. Walmart left and went near Sherway where they built that mega one around the corner.
Right.
And
Yep.
then I remember it was either BlogTO or Narcity did an article on Honeydale Mall. And basically they had one Chinese food restaurant open
Oh
in
yeah.
and like maybe a couple of other professional businesses, like maybe a
Like a tax
lawyer or a
accountant or
doctor. Yeah,
something.
tax accountant, and that's it. And it was, and I think they've used that mall for, I think one of the Resident Evil films was
Really?
because they have it's practically condemned. No one's there.
Oh, okay.
So it
So
makes a
yeah,
great
I don't know
bet.
how long it's been since Hot Oven Bakery's been in Cloverdale. They were on like Bloor Street. I think they still have a location like Bloor and Royal York area. But the best chicken pot pies, like if that's your thing, the best. And they used to do a lemon coconut square that I would die for. They stopped doing that. I was like, what? But that was my first job, which was really hard because math was not my strong suit. And like they didn't have cash registers like today. So you had to do all the math in your head. And I was terrified to be on cash because they used to have like a cashier when you walked out and she did everything. All we were doing was like bread and like whatever. But at a certain point in the night, she would close her till and we would have to do it. I was always terrified.
No, I know that feeling because you don't have a digital screen. You're literally working off what's
Oh
printed on
yeah.
the receipt, and you can't really amend it because the mistake is still there and it
Yeah.
follows you
And
up.
you're like,
Yeah,
please God, give me exact change. Please God, give me
I
exact.
know. Or if we're gonna be off, let's be off by a penny. We can deal with that. No one's gonna think we're skimming.
Yeah. And then the little old ladies would come in with their like $50 bill and buy like 2 loaves of bread. You're like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
No. First
Have you
world problem there, but yeah.
have you been to Cloverdale Mall recently?
I can't say I've been there in a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah.
Laura Secor's gone. That
What?
yeah, that closed down during the pandemic, and they've got like a generic. I think it's a generic sandwich shop there. Like no one's really putting a lot of effort in. And the luggage store closed down and turned into a comic book store. And apparently, they're planning on building a brand spanking new food court or food pavilion because
Really?
it's where the Zellers slash Target used to be.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
because they still haven't done
I was
anything with that
wondering
part.
if Zellers was gonna go back there because that's probably like their demographic right there. I don't know, but maybe.
It's one of those weird malls where it's like it's got something you absolutely want, and then
It
the
has an
rest of it,
LCBO, so it's never gonna go anywhere.
it's got an
And
LCBO.
and a Home Sense now, right? Isn't that at the end? Not a Home
Uh,
Sense or a
no,
Winners?
they've got a Winners, and
Okay.
there's an old colleague of mine used to joke about the home hardware they have there because the home hardware is like
Isn't it in the
10%.
basement?
No, no, that's where the Dollarama is.
Oh,
Look at
Dollar General.
this is we should call this the Sherway Cloverdale Mall podcast because
This
this is
isn't
all we're
a
doing.
this isn't about Jen. This is like a memory lane. You and I should have done this recording walking through Etobicoke. That's what we should have done
We should have, but
next
the
time.
no, absolutely. But the home hardware, we joke that the home hardware is like 10 to 20% hardware, and the other 80% is like stuff you'd buy from a direct response. It's like commercial where it's just like call now and get
Oh my
10%
God.
off, or
I want to
as
go
seen on
now.
TV on all the boxes. Like, oh yeah, if you're looking for a food dehydrator or anything that
Nice.
folds and fits under a bed, they're
Oh
selling
my
it for you.
God. I want to go there this weekend, maybe. Bring the kids.
Yes.
It'd be fun.
Bring the kids. Yeah. Okay, so what brought you to Humber and why study advertising?
Okay, so that's a funny story. So obviously being, I would say a typical teen in the 90s, boy crazy, mean girls, sure way. We've captured all that. I was like, I wasn't a great student. Like, I wasn't like, I want to learn and be great. I wanted to be a vet for a long time until I took grade 11 biology, and I was like, whoa, hard pass. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like, I don't know. My parents were like, you need to go to secondary. Like, they were like forcing that because all my brothers and sisters went to university, and so that was a big thing for my parents. So I guess when I went to school, there was still grade 13. I think we were the last class to have grade 13, or maybe it was like the year before. So pretty early on, they're like, okay, like start to think about college, university. And so I didn't have the marks to get into university, and I wasn't about to like turn things around in grade 11. So yeah, just started looking at colleges and stuff and found the Humber, close by. I didn't really have ambitions to like live on campus and do all that, although I wish I had. Like, I will totally encourage my girls to like go away to school and live on campus. Um, I just started reading through, and obviously they have the prerequisites and what you need. And for some strange reason, the advertising program did not have math as a prerequisite. So I was like, ooh, this looks interesting, dealing with my change issues at Cloverdale Mall. But just sort of applied. It looked interesting. I got the concept of advertising. I was like, okay, I know what this is. This makes sense. And I applied and actually got in. So, and absolutely loved that program. Like, it changed my life. Yeah.
Were you at the North or the South campus?
The program was at North. So I went for advertising media sales was North campus when I went. It's now at South, I'm pretty sure.
After Humber, you went to Ryerson to study magazine publishing. So how do you go from someone who wasn't too crazy about school to, I'll take this, to give me some more?
Actually, I'm going to go back for one sec because it was kind of funny. The first day we started class at Humber, the professors there, which a lot of people in the advertising industry will know this term, you're a Barb and Donna kid. So they ran the program, and they sat us in the first day, and they're like, look to your left and look to your right, because those people won't be here when you graduate. And I was like, damn. And they were true. I think 78 or 76 of us started that program, and 22 of us graduated. It was crazy.
That was cutthroat. Geez.
Yeah, totally. So the fact that I actually graduated and did well, was pretty remarkable to my parents. They were like, whoa, look at you. And you could kind of go in two ways once you graduated. You can go into sales, or you can go agency side. That's kind of what they prepped you for. So I was pretty sure that I wanted to be in sales, knowing my then bubbly personality. And, I wasn't like, okay, media planning and buying was something you kind of did, but I saw myself more as a salesperson. So got a job pretty quickly out of school at a B2B directory. It was a pretty interesting role, but got me kind of on the print side. I think my dream once I started the program, you kind of started looking forward, was, wanted to work at a House and Home magazine or something like that. So eventually got a job at Rogers in their publishing department, on their B2B side, not the cool House and Home or Flair, any of those ones. But so when I was
we're talking a Canadian Grocer, or they used to have Canadian Grocer. I know they divested themselves from the assets, but it was Canadian Grocer. They had Marketing Magazine was part of it.
Yeah, that was all part of it. So I wasn't that cool.
Okay.
I worked for a paint and coatings magazine and a chemical processing magazine, but definitely got my foot in the door, definitely learned the hustle of sales, learned obviously print layout, and, was a small team there too. I was there was maybe one or two salespeople on the magazine. You worked directly with the publisher and the editor, and I did all the trade shows and traveled and, lived the life back then. And then, I think they really supported kind of other educational opportunities. I think Rogers at the time actually paid for courses if you wanted to take them and it related to your job and stuff. So that's why I took those courses at Ryerson.
Okay, so how did Ryerson stack up to what you were doing at Humber? Was there any overlap? Did it complement what you were doing or what you had learned before?
Yeah, it was a little bit different. They were shorter programs. I think they were only 6 months or something. It was kind of after work, we went and did the courses. But yeah, there was a good teacher, just kind of taught you the fundamentals. If you wanted to start your own magazine, I mean, the internet was slowly becoming a thing. So yeah, I thought print was a cool place to be. I liked the concept of, the layout of the magazine, how editorial and advertising work together. So yeah, it was a good program too. I liked it.
And that first B2B magazine directory job that you had at Rogers, that kind of set you up for, I guess, success later on in your career, because from there you moved to, what was it, the Weather Network. I guess you were your first digital sales rep, I believe.
I definitely wanted to get on the consumer side. I mean, B2B is cool and definitely, a niche for sure, but I wanted to get on the consumer side to land that House and Home magazine job. I needed to get more experience working with, the big agencies and the consumer brands and stuff. And although I was told .coms wouldn't last and they're not a stable job, I thought the Weather Network had something. I don't know. They seemed like a reputable brand. So I applied to be one of their first digital sales reps. So I think there was only I think one person was full-time and then one person was kind of the TV rep / web rep. And so I was one of their next sort of full-time web sales reps. So one of my first clients was like Dell and Disney. Like when you did the movies, you know, you subscribe to get the
Oh,
movie.
the
The
homepage
whole,
takeovers.
yeah, no, like the um I think it was Disney that did it, where you like subscribe to their thing, and then you got like movies sent to you, and then you'd send them back. It was
Oh,
like,
Columbia House.
yeah, like something
There we
like
go.
that.
Something like
Yeah,
yes. Like, it's something
yeah,
like 10 movies for a penny, but then you end up paying like
totally.
50 bucks
Yes,
for the ninth one or something.
100%. They were like my first clients. Yeah, they were the only ones who had dollars to spend on digital back then.
It was, I understand it was hit or miss. And I mean, my digital career goes back quite a ways as well. But yeah, there were
Yeah,
clients that were like, we don't know about this internet. So
yeah.
we're
I
just
don't
gonna keep
know.
putting money in TV and radio. I'm like, I don't know, it might catch on.
You might catch on. It's risky. I think back then, like CPMS were like $25.
I was
For
actually
like
just
for like
reflecting
the
on that the other day.
small banners at the
Yeah.
top, like, what was it? Like a 468 by 60 or whatever that size used to be.
It was like run of site for like a
Yeah,
big box would be like 20 to 25. But if you do run of category, if you open up
yeah,
that window and you're willing
totally.
to scale, yeah, it could get as low as 12. Now it's like 12 is like, get out of here. We're not paying that rate. Jeez.
100%. So
Can I
funny.
just ask you quickly the difference between B2B and consumer? I know consumer is far sexier than B2B, but someone once said something to me about B2B that really resonated. That if you work for a publication that people can't buy around, like it sounded like you were working for some very, very, very niche publications,
Yes.
it seems like the money comes to you. Like I'm not trying to
Yeah.
underplay like any of
No,
your
no.
efforts or anything like that, but it seems like they can't go elsewhere. The same way people are like, well, can't really buy around Google or Facebook.
There was a lot more going on because print was like the sexy media next to TV back then. So there was a few other publications. I think Transcon had like a competitor B2B for the categories that I was working on. So, I mean, there still was competition, obviously, but yeah, we were definitely regarded well being a Rogers brand for sure.
So what brought you to Expedia?
So I had been at the Weather Network for 5 years. You know, during that time, that's when I started with the ad club and, you know, kind of grew my network. I like the volunteering aspect. I definitely love digital. It met a lot of great people, had a lot of great clients, and yeah, an opportunity at Expedia just kind of. I knew the guy that was there, so the person who was selling before me at Expedia moved to Hong Kong. I think is where he moved. It was overseas, and so they were looking for someone to replace him to run Expedia.ca and hotels.ca for their advertising side. It was called Media Solutions. It still is. And so, yeah, I met with the guys that were there. They flew in from Seattle and I met with them, and just really great guys. And, you know, thinking back, I probably shouldn't have done the Burlington to Toronto commute because then I was in that commute for a long time. But yeah, it was a great and very different, right? Like at the Weather Network, advertising is obviously a main source of revenue. At Expedia, it's travel. Like the advertising revenue is like second to the travel, obviously. So it was different focus on what I was doing, and obviously a lot different. My clients were not as well versed in the advertising space, like they sold travel or packages or airline tickets or you know whatever they were doing. So there's a lot more education on how the advertising and the media solutions complemented them being on the Expedia store. So yeah, I loved it. It was a great job.
I have some experience with what you're saying there, and I want to
Yeah,
see if there are any parallels. Did you
sure.
find yourself sitting across the table from people that had budgets but didn't even know what CPM meant? And I mean that sincerely. I'm not knocking them. Like I genuinely,
1000%. No, for
yeah.
sure. You know, I came from working with agencies and it was like, okay, I got this and CPM and you'd sign the contract pretty much like, okay, Jen, especially being the Weather Network, like it was a always on buy, right? For a lot of brands. Then to move to Expedia where they're like, okay, we have these marketing funds. And sometimes it like was a percentage of the sales of their room or flights or whatever they were selling. They got put into like these marketing funds, and sometimes they would have pretty significant dollars, and they were like, we don't even know what to do with these. So it was like, okay, well, here's what we can do. This is what this means. This is what success looks like. Like, let me know if this collides with your KPIs. And yeah, it was a bit more hand holding. And but I like that. Like I liked being more invested in that side of it and helping them make those decisions.
See, I like that too. And I think working with people that don't have any formal media experience can be a lot. No, it literally can be a lot more daunting than a tough client that will ask you every question in the book, because
Yeah.
I find that the former, those people that we have to kind of teach from scratch, they have trust issues that you have to get over quite quickly. Like, I imagine some of those clients called you up one day and was like, Jen, I'm on the website. Why can't I see my ad?
Oh,
Even though you sold them 1 million impressions, and the Expedia
Oh,
site's probably
Victor.
delivering like 1 billion in 1 month.
Yep. I mean, I had that at the Weather Network too. I had both things where they're like, I'm on the website and I can't see our ad. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
But I like that part of it. And I think that I don't know if I'm skipping some things in the questions you wanted to ask me, but I feel like Expedia kind of helped me realize that I liked helping brands make decisions for their marketing dollars. So I think that role really helped me focus in on where I saw my career going. Obviously at Expedia, I started to have a family and had some kids, and, I did some freelance work, and I worked at a few other places and stuff. But when I kind of, had my two kids and, was living in Burlington and, not wanting to commute to Toronto anymore, and really sat down and said, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I sort of categorized all the things that I liked at all the different jobs I had. And, I liked the sales part. I liked that rush, but, I really liked helping brands figure out what to do with their dollars, and how the experience that I had at different roles, I could then help them make more educated decisions on what really works and what moves the needle, and, that sort of thing. So that's when I really decided that I wanted to work for a brand. So here I am.
so let's bring this full circle then.
Sure.
Surex, like,
Yeah.
did you find the role? Did the role find you?
Oh
And
my God.
did you
It's
have to do a lot of thinking getting out of sales and going into marketing? And I'm going to throw something out there that hangs over the head of every sales rep, is like, hey, I can go to a marketing job, which I'm not saying it isn't stressful, has a little bit less stress, but you give up the commission checks.
Yeah,
Like,
that was
that's
hard.
a difficult decision to make, especially like you said,
100%.
you've got two daughters, you've got a family.
No, 100%. That definitely was probably one of the negatives of moving from sales to, a marketing role. But I landed here very uniquely. I think it's a funny story. So, I'm in sales. I can sell anything. Like, what do you want me to sell? Let's do it. So I thought I could sell insurance. I didn't realize you needed to have like licenses to sell insurance. I now know this. But I applied for the role. I'm like, okay. And I think like we have done things where, Surex has helped get people licensed and stuff. So I think it was, you don't need that licensing. Like if it's the right person, then they kind of helped you back then. Anyhow, so I applied, and I get this random text message from Matt Alston, who's our COO, saying, "Hey, are we still good to chat? This day?" And I was like, "I don't think we have a meeting. Like, I'm pretty organized." And like, no sooner did I try to respond to this person messaging me when he called. So I was like, "Hey, like, I don't think we had something." He's like, "Well, are you good to talk now?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. Like, let's get into this kind of thing." So he started asking me about my history and this and that. And he was like, "Oh," he's like, "we've been thinking about hiring like a director of marketing for a while." He's like, "I think you might be a better fit for that." And I was like, 100%. Like, I'm not I don't think I'm an insurance broker. Like, that's a very specific skill set. So he asked me to come in and meet with him. And the funny part of this is that the day I was supposed to meet with him, so he's obviously in Alberta. I flew into Burlington to meet with a bunch of people, me meeting one of them. So that morning, my daughter decided that would be a really great day to run in our house, and she slammed her head against a pillar in our home and needed 4 stitches.
Oh,
So I text him going, "Hey, just run into the hospital, get my kid some stitches. Can we just like meet later today?" And he was like, 100%, like, let me know how it goes. He's got a couple of kids, so he got it. So bring Lily to the hospital, get some stitches, and she was, what was she? I guess she was 3. So um I I leave the hospital. I'm like, "Lily, are you okay to go to school?" And she's like, "Yeah, mommy, I'm fine." I'm like, "Awesome." So I drop her off at daycare, told them what happened. They're like, "Okay, well, yeah, she seems fine." I'm like, "Okay." So I text Matt and I was like, "Hey, I can come meet." He's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm just finishing lunch, like whatever." Anyway, I find out later he had kind of written me off. He's like, "Who's going to come to this interview after their kid's been like in the hospital, needed stitches?" But anyhow, I did meet with him. We hit it off. He's a amazing guy. And he agreed that, I would be a good fit for their director of marketing. He spoke with Lance and like later that day they offered me the job. So it was pretty crazy.
And what's it been like being on the other side of the table and
Yeah.
having sales reps come by and
I
being like, "Hey, spend your dollars with us."
So two things. One, I think it would have been much harder if I had gone to a company that already had all this set up, right? They were very like, we don't know what we don't know. So let's start. And if we do something right, great. If we do something wrong, we'll learn from it. Like they were really great at sort of building the department, which I very much valued. So that part was great. And then I think I've also been a good client too, because I know what it's like on the sales side. So I've been very transparent with, I think, every salesperson that's contacted me, like, hey, we do have dollars for this. This is what I need. Or we don't have the dollars for this. This isn't what I think we can do. Because as a salesperson, I would have valued that. Like, why am I going to waste my time trying to make the sale if it's never going to happen? You know what I mean? Like there's, keeping in touch, but then there's just like wasting time with people. And I wish there was more honesty and transparency, like of how you could make that buy or how, you could not.
We need more empathetic clients. Thank you. On behalf of everyone still on this side of the table.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I know when I worked with, we hired an Ocean in the beginning to work with our brand. And Spiro was always like, Jen, everyone on the team always says like how great it is to work with you. And, you're such a great client. And I was like, that's awesome. That's what I want to be. I want to be the great client.
Throughout your career, though, you've also been giving back to the industry. So talk to us about some of the volunteer work you've done with the Advertising Club of Toronto. And that's where we got to meet each other.
Yeah, that started at the Weather Network. And I guess I went to lots of ad club parties and I was like, this is a pretty good like place to be. And Jane was the president there and I got to know her and she reached out to me. I forget who was running the social events before me. I forget. Anyhow, she was like, hey, we have a spot on the board. Like, do you think you could fit this into your schedule? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I started right on the board, even before I joined a committee, I think. I might have been on something before, but I started running the social parties. So that was holiday party and summer party.
Oh, so it was one committee for both then? Because I think they keep them separate now.
So they separated after I went on mat leave and someone else took over going, how the beep did Jen do both events? So yeah, I did manage both events for 4 years, I think, summer party and holiday party. And then I volunteered on it was Internet Day for a while. Maybe that was where I met them. And then I took myself off that committee to then run. I think maybe that was it. I forget. So yeah, Internet Day, I was on the board or on the committee for that for a long time, which was a great team. And then in the last couple of years, I was co-chair of Digital Day. So Tracy and I did that for, was it 3 years? I think we had 3 events together.
It was, I'd say it was 3, possibly 4. Because if they do like, they try to, well, not try, but they get you in for 2 years, then it's supposed to flip. So I think you guys were there for maybe 4 years.
They kept us longer than they should. I'm just kidding. No, we liked it. But yeah, that's where we met. That's where I've met lots of great people like Jamie Thompson and I don't even know, like Laden and yeah, this like lots of people that I wouldn't necessarily have met, especially on the sales side, right? Like you meet agency people being in sales, but meeting the salespeople, that was because salespeople are always at those events, right? So that's how I met a lot of great people in the industry for sure.
And it's interesting to get to know your peers, regardless of what they do on an even playing field. Because when you are part of that committee, you're not trying to sell something to someone. You're trying to get something done. So you kind of have to work with them in ways that you haven't done before. Or you're not paid to work with them a certain way. It's like you're still trying to put your best foot forward. I know I'm rambling right now, but you know what I'm getting at.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, I very much liked being involved with the ad club. I liked that we gave back to the, colleges and universities. I liked that we gave back to NABs. Like it was always a good time for sure. Before we kind of get to rapid fire questions, it's just a funny thought as I think back. So I know we've talked about my teen years. Like I wasn't that ambitious. I was really, motivated by the fun and the friends and the boys and Sure Way, obviously. I just think how amazing it is now that I found a program like Humber and like I said, really did turn things around for me. it's funny now that as an adult, you're like, oh, you meet people and what did you go to school for? And, they're whatever they are. And they went to school for like agriculture or like just different things. So I feel like I'm really proud that I went to school and I'm still in the industry that I went to school for. I just feel like, I found my purpose and I love the marketing and I just love all this stuff. I was excited about learning and all the achievements. Like I was top sales rep for some places I worked. I won a sales award from the ad club. And it really, set the bar for me to just kind of do more. I think people who meet me in my adult life, they're like, how do you do it all? I have 2 girls. My husband runs his own business that I help him with. And funny enough, I just recently started a side business with my daughter. It's called Girly Kits. So we actually make first period kits for girls. There was a gap in the market. And as a marketer, I was like, ooh, what's this? So yeah, helping her sort of navigate this next chapter of her life. And obviously for my younger daughter. But I just love that, we're sharing this thing, we got this bond and showing them that entrepreneurship is actually a legit career path as well. I've learned now that I can't sit still and let the world pass me by. I need to be involved and make things happen and use my outgoing personality to really do more. And whether that's in my day job at Surex and, helping push the needle on bringing that brand to the masses or, helping my daughter navigate this next chapter of her life and just helping girls and what they're doing. But I've just, this advertising industry is like family. Like I've met so many great friends and just met some really great mentors. We talked about not really having that as a kid, but I've had amazing bosses and people that I've worked with and really amazing people who just support you no matter what you're doing. So anyway, I just think that, if I can give any advice to those listening, it's really do what you love and you'll have a successful career or life or whatever you're doing. So
Amen to that. That's a
there you
perfect
go.
way. That is a perfect way to move into rapid fire questions. The campaign you were most proud of?
I'm sure there was lots on the sales side, but I think when I started at Surex, our very first campaign, I don't even know if we had a name for it, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, but I was actually talent in the video. So it was all about like how you meet your person, right? Like, so when you go on Surex and you start a quote, we assign you to an insurance advisor. So we sort of spun that into a great new branding video. So yeah, that's my favorite so far.
Your favorite movies, and emphasis on movies, plural.
I have a lot. I love the rom-coms, right? Although now I want to watch Mean Girls. I want to add Mean Girls to my list, but
We can add it.
Friends with Benefits, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, love a good suspense. So like, and shows too, right? Like Suits, Breaking Bad. I'm watching Bosch right now. I'm loving that. So yeah, that's my jam.
You definitely love suspenseful television because both Suits and Breaking Bad, I mean, those shows would give me anxieties at certain
Oh,
points.
same with Bosch. Like, oh, it's a good one too. It's
I
on.
stopped I stopped Bosch after the 3rd season. My
Oh,
mom's all over it. She says that he's a
yes.
spoiler alert PI now, so
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm not there
okay.
yet.
Well then, let's just there.
Oh,
Next question.
okay.
If Hollywood were to make a movie based on your life story, who would you want to play you?
I love Christina Applegate. Like, I love her. I love her sense of humor. I love her style. I love her wit. Like, she's awesome.
Follow-up question, if Hollywood were to make that movie based on your life story, what would you call it?
I don't know, like Life of the Party, maybe.
That's not a bad title to
Hey,
have.
I don't know. It would probably get a lot of views. I don't know.
It would come up quite easily in search.
There
If
you
someone
go.
is searching
See?
life and party, boom, it comes right to the top.
Always thinking of the SEO
Yeah,
strategy.
exactly. Your favorite book?
So I'm not a huge reader. I have this thing where I can only read in the summer on my back deck. I don't know why. But my favorite author is Emily Giffin. So I will like devour any book she writes. So if she's listening, she needs to write another book because I'm all cut up.
Okay. Your favorite song?
Oh my God. So 90s girl over here. I am a hip hop, R&B, reggae, anything from Biggie, TLC, 112. I'm there for it. My Spotify playlist is quite eclectic. So, I'm a bit of a Bieber fan. Pink, Bruno Mars, Adele, Ed Sheeran. Like, I don't really have a favorite song. I guess maybe my wedding song, You and I by Lifehouse was our wedding song. So maybe that should be my favorite song.
I don't know why this came to mind, but when you said 90s hip hop. Mace was the first one that hit me.
Oh, I found out he's like a preacher now or something.
Yeah, he was one of those guys that I think he was a one-hit wonder on his own.
Yeah.
I mean, it was his decision. Like, he decided to back out of it early on where everyone else kept going, and I don't even know what we call Puff Daddy anymore. But I still have mad respect for him.
But side note, somebody just posted there's this like 90s crazy concert in Vegas in May. You should look it up because I think everybody you've ever listened to in the 90s is at this concert. Like, it's ridiculous. So
it's basically going to be like Much Dance 95, Big Shiny Tunes 3 put together.
Yes, absolutely.
You remember those CDs? Weren't they the greatest?
Okay, my very first CD, because CDs were like when I was a teenager, was Dance Mix 92. What? There you go.
Yeah, I had that one on cassette. I was a late bloomer when I was a late bloomer when it came to getting CDs. It was just the way the family thought. It was just like, well, you have all these cassettes and a cassette player. Why would we make them obsolete with a CD player, even though they came bundled together?
Yeah, because I had the Sony Walkman with tape, but then I had the CD boombox like at home on my desk.
See, I was Panasonic Shockwave. That's what I had.
Funny.
I wasn't a Walkman person. Although you can find all of those albums on Spotify now. Someone has taken the time to upload the album image and put together a playlist for all of the Much Dance and Big Shiny Tunes, and it is incredibly nostalgic.
And did you have a Much Music Dance at your high school?
Yes, we did. I was in elementary school. It wasn't at the high school. It was elementary school. Like
you're like a couple years younger than me, so I guess that's why.
It was at the tail end, and yeah, that was incredible. We'll never have those again. Much Music was quite the brand back then. It wasn't just a channel.
Speaker's Corner. I feel like I heard that came back or it's coming back.
I don't know if that's even relevant anymore, because you turn on Instagram or TikTok and everyone's got their phone complaining about something and saying this is how the world should be run. And it's
but doing it on the street in a booth where you cram your face in is way funner.
That's true. Okay, did you ever watch the Speaker's Corner TV show? Like, not like when it was a segment on City Pulse News, but like an actual 30 minutes of just clips of people.
100%. And wasn't Ed the Sock part of that? Wasn't he part of it?
Do you remember his Fromage where he would just mock the videos? Oh, check out Ed the Sock Fromage.
And what was, and this is going to go long, you probably have to edit all this, but the other one, the video where they had like the, did you know, like speech bubbles that used to pop up? What was that?
Oh, Pop-Up Video. Yeah.
Pop-Up Video.
Yep.
So fun.
I do remember those quite a bit. Yeah, those were the days.
Victor, can we just do this every Friday and reminisce about our cool teenage years?
I had Heather Gordon from Acast on, and she used to run Much Music's ad sales a while back. And she was there for the Intimate Interactives, like all that sort of like that, like when they would shut down Queen and John. And we just don't have that anymore. It's like that's completely evaporated.
Yeah, that should come back.
The best advice you have ever received?
Do what makes you happy.
My signature closing question: if you weren't in media, what do you think you'd be doing and why?
I don't know if it still applies, but someone always said, like, if you weren't doing this, you should be a cruise ship director. And I feel like I could still do that. Like, I like running events. Like, I think that's why I like volunteer with Ad Club and stuff. Like, I like running events, and, I've been at things where, my playlist has become the music of the evening. So DJ Jazzy Jen is, my side profile.
I got that reference. I love that.
And then, just like having fun, being on a cruise ship. Like, I think I could rock that. Totally.
Well, Summertime from the Fresh Prince is going through my head right now. That's my favorite Will Smith song.
There you go. Getting jiggy with it. My daughter had a dance routine to Getting Jiggy with it. And she's like, Mommy, this is a cool new song. And I was like, it's not new, but I agree. It's cool.
Jen, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem. It was so fun.
That's it for today's show. For more episodes, you can go to mediapeople.ca or subscribe wherever you get podcasts. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram @VicGenova.